Welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we're going to completely rethink how you handle exhaustion. We'll be unpacking some genuinely brilliant insights from Calm CEO David Coe alongside author and host Jay Shetty. They recently sat down to talk about the modern burnout crisis, and you know what? Their conclusions offer a completely transformative way to manage stress. So if you've been feeling drained lately, and let's be honest, who hasn't? Stick with me because we are literally going to change your whole paradigm. Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll cover the daily overload epidemic, your brain as a battery, good stress versus bad stress, redefining workplace culture, and finally, rituals to power up. Let's just dive right in.
Section 1. The daily overload epidemic. To really get why we feel so incredibly burnt out these days, we have to start by looking at the sheer volume of data our brains are forced to deal with daily. Research actually shows we process around 72 gigabytes of information every single day. Just think about that number for a second. It's massive. That's a relentless nonstop stream of emails, text messages, breaking news, social media feeds, and complex decisions flowing into your mind from the exact second you wake up.
To put that into a relatable perspective, 72 gigabytes is the data equivalent of reading a full fantasy novel every 24 hours. Your brain has a hard capacity limit, right? When you're processing the equivalent of The Hobbit daily, it's really no wonder you feel totally overwhelmed and just completely exhausted by dinner time.
But here's the crazy part. Despite this massive cognitive load we're all carrying, a shocking 61% of people feel they're expected to just get over their stress. David Coe actually shared this story about experiencing really intense physical anxiety as a 14-year-old, and his well-meaning mother gave him the absolute classic advice of the era: just power through it. But let's be real, you can't just power through 72 gigabytes of daily data without breaking down eventually.
Moving on to Section 2. Your brain as a battery. Reimagining our mind as a smartphone battery can completely change our approach to exhaustion.
The core idea here is absolutely crucial. We've got to stop telling ourselves to power through when our tanks are totally empty, and instead, we need to focus on powering up. We often hear the word rest and immediately feel this wave of guilt, like we're just slacking off or not being productive. But using the word recharge instantly reframes the whole concept. You're doing it specifically so you can show up and give your best tomorrow.
This is such a cool concept. It actually came from a friend of David Coe's who started asking her kids this exact question. Because think about it. When you ask someone, "How are you?" what do you usually get? An automatic, fake, "I'm fine." But asking for a battery percentage instantly strips away all that emotional baggage. It gives people a really safe, specific number to communicate exactly where their energy levels are at.
Breaking it down into 4 distinct zones of mental energy is a total game changer. It gives us absolute permission to take actionable breaks way before we hit zero. I mean, think about how panicked we get when our smartphones dip into the red zone, right? We literally dump everything to look for a charger. Yet when our own mental battery drops to 15%, we somehow expect ourselves to go run a marathon. Having a clear blueprint like this helps you intervene early.
Let's jump into Section 3. Good stress versus bad stress. A really key realization here is that not all stress is created equal. There is a really sharp contrast between eustress, which is good stress, and distress. The reality is, a stress-free workplace is pretty much a myth, but eustress actually builds a stronger culture through shared goals and high support. Distress, on the other hand, is when leadership just keeps compounding your tasks without ever taking anything away. It leaves you with zero clarity, drains your batteries straight to zero, and leads directly to physical ailments and total burnout.
Now, as a great example of managing external distress, the team at Calm used some surprisingly simple, yet super effective tactics to give their employees a mental release during highly anxious public events. For instance, during the recent elections, they recognized that external stress was just skyrocketing. So what did they do? They actively integrated 15 to 30 seconds of collective silence into their day, and even shared calming visuals of animals from the San Diego Zoo on their company channels. They actually acknowledged the weight of the moment instead of pretending everything was just business as usual.
And that brings us to a critical pivot point. If individual burnout is deeply tied to these external pressures and structures, what exactly is the role of management in solving it?
Section 4. Redefining workplace culture. Let's look at how executives and managers can foster an environment that doesn't just constantly drain their employees to a single percentage point. Sometimes the single most productive thing a leader can do is just put themselves in neutral. and genuinely listen. Former Apple CEO John Sculley famously adopted the title Chief Listening Officer. Why? Because he realized that pausing to just absorb what his employees were going through had a far greater impact than constantly dictating directives from the top down.
The company Calm actually walks the walk internally here, which is great to see. When David Coe joined, he found that all-hands meetings literally began with a brief group meditation and wrapped up with a gratitude roundtable. You add in strict Zoom-free days, and these kinds of rituals create massive organizational trust. Jay Shetty even noted that instead of just guessing what his own employees wanted for holiday gifts, he just asked them. And guess what? They didn't want unused gym memberships, they wanted red light infrared face masks. It really pays to listen.
All right, our final section, Section 5, Rituals to Power Up. We've talked about culture, so now let's see how we can build our own daily rituals to keep our personal batteries out of that dangerous red zone.
If you fall into this statistic, listen closely, because this is for you. You absolutely need a pre-planned routine. When your battery is hovering at 5%, you simply do not have the cognitive capacity to invent a complex wellness solution on the fly. You need a system that is already built and just waiting for you to use it.
Take David Coe's personal morning checklist for protecting his early day energy. It is wonderfully simple, but notice what is conspicuously missing from this list. Looking at his phone, he actively avoids that massive 72-gigabyte data dump right when he wakes up. Instead, by intentionally starting the coffee, taking 3 deep breaths of fresh air, and doing a quick exercise, he makes sure he is fully charged before the workday even begins.
The real secret here, though, is identifying exactly which specific charger your body needs in any given moment. I mean, you wouldn't try to plug a smartphone into a toaster and expect it to charge, right? Similarly, trying to fix a severe lack of sleep with an intense workout just isn't going to work. Jay Shetty actually talked about feeling incredibly weak when he tried working out after a 4 a.m. flight, purely because his sleep battery was completely empty. You have to match the right charger, whether that's mindfulness, food, or human connection, to your specific deficit. This quote from Jay Shetty really hits the nail on the head. Treating work purely as a transactional, head-down grind removes joy and connection from a full third of your entire life. By building authentic relationships with your colleagues, you're actually creating a massive, decentralized charging network, and that's something you can tap into every single day to keep your energy up.
So I want to leave you with one final challenge for today. Think about the specific chargers we've covered and figure out your ideal recharge method right now. Seriously, write it down. Have it entirely ready to go before your battery dies tomorrow. Ask yourself, are you just powering through, or are you actually powering up? Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.